This is one of the most interesting wheels in sim racing. I've been using it in multiple sims and I've got a lot of thoughts about it because this could be the best looking wheel in sim racing. Like, this could be the best looking wheel to have on your rig. It actually has illuminated buttons as well. You probably can't see here because it ain't plugged in, but it's pale white light buttons and I think it'll look really sophisticated and classy on any rig. So if you want to impress people, this could be the wheel for that. But it's not the perfect wheel by any stretch. This is not the perfect sim racing wheel. Now, I previously, over a year ago, reviewed the Lamborghini Ascender wheel from Moza. That was more of a pure sim racing wheel with a really nice screen, but that had quite big compromises. It didn't have, for example, magnetic shifters, and for a lot of people that's a deal breaker. This wheel has similar compromises. Now, this is a review unit by Moza. They sent it out to me, but they haven't seen this video, haven't paid me to make this video. They haven't told me to say anything or not say anything. I'm just giving you, as always, my honest opinions. Now, there's some elements to this wheel here. The majority is going to be controlled by Lamborghini. A long time ago, I went out to Jerez with Lamborghini to see how close that Lamborghini Ascender wheel was to the actual Ascender car. Now, note it was pretty close, basically exactly the same without a Moza logo as far as I could tell. But I could see out there, Lamborghini are a brand that will not approve stuff unless they're 100% happy. Like, they really are very protective about their brand. That's why the Lamborghini brand means so much. So I already know that Lamborghini are going to have controlled so much about the aesthetic of this wheel, and Moza will have had to essentially conform with what's already in the Revuelto car, because I haven't even told what the wheel's called. It's a Lamborghini Revuelto wheel, and it costs $399. That Ascender wheel costs $1,400, so it's $1,000 cheaper. Again, pros and cons. So the front of this wheel here, I think basically looks identical to the one in the real car, which is insane because that real car, I'm never ever going to own that real car, but I can go out and buy this wheel for $400. So again, I think sitting on your rig is going to look really cool. So that means we get a ton of buttons. There are 34 buttons on this wheel, and there's a ton on the front. Again, compromises, especially if you're a hardcore sim racer, like a hot lapping demon or you're doing endurance races. So let me just actually run through a few of these compromises by name. So firstly, you see the dials here at the top. They don't click round. They kind of spring back into place, which is kind of fun. It's kind of a satisfying thing to do. However, if you're a sim racer and you're trying to go from like TC7 to TC6 or ABS3 to ABS4, and you want to do it specifically, in the sims I was doing, sometimes it just, when it's turned, it starts scrolling through. So you kind of have to go back and forth, and it's not super precise for sim racing. The other thing is, you see the buttons here, they get very close to where your palms are going to be. Very close here. And if you're doing a hairpin or something, or you're trying to do some mad counter correction, your palms are going to get very close. Like, I think some people with big hands are going to be in danger of pressing these buttons. So you wouldn't want to map them in that case, but you obviously don't want to be pressing buttons unless you intend it. Also, you can see at the top here, your thumbs, if you have small hands, I think your thumbs are going to be fine. If you've got big hands like me, your thumbs are going to start to rest on this material here. Now, in the real Lamborghini, that's probably not a problem at all because the materials are going to be of the highest quality. But as this is a $400 rim, we're not going to have materials of the highest quality. So these are cons, I would say, for taking a real Lamborghini wheel and kind of placing it in sim racing. However, these shifters, I don't believe are on the real wheel. I think these shifters will be on the column. That's normally how it goes. So Moza will have had more reign over these shifters, and these shifters are fantastic. These shifters are a real highlight of this wheel. It's a pleasure to shift with these shifters, and because of the context in which you're going to be using this wheel, it's so critically important, which I'll get onto. So fantastic magnetic shifters and clutch paddles, really nice carbon fiber shifters here, so your contact points are very, very, very nice. Nice solid shift, really long as well. These are fantastic. So Moza's done a really good job with the shifters. These are better shifters, for example, that you get in another licensed wheel from Fanatec, the Porsche Vision VGT, which doesn't have as nice shifters in my opinion. Okay, so talking about the pros and cons. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned it, but that is not a button. It's not a button in the real car, it's not a button here. So the weight continues to have a wheel where we can smash the horn like that, but that is not a button. I mentioned briefly the backlighting. That's a really nice touch. So again, they're not RGB because I don't think Lamborghini would let Moza allow us do RGB and mess up the aesthetics of this wheel. So they're a very like sophisticated pale light. I mentioned 34 buttons. On the back of the wheel here, you've got a ton of buttons. Now, the middle buttons just seem to work for like going back and forward, which is kind of like crazy. But this gives you more buttons to play with so you can navigate around in menus, and if you're doing free roam games like ASETEK Evo, when they come out with free roam, you can obviously map a ton of stuff there. Now I used this in a load of sim racing titles. I used it in hardcore sims, I used it in casual open world games and everything in the middle. For pure sim racing, when you're doing stuff like hairpins, when you're going from like lock to lock, because this wheel is so wide as a 340mm, it's a lot of effort to do it. So you have to bear that in mind. Like, if you buy this as a daily driver sim racing wheel, that's going to be unorthodox in my opinion. However, where this wheel really shines for me is driving powerful road cars on track, especially rear-wheel drive road cars. So obviously I drove Lambos, I also drove BMWs, Toyotas and Alphas and stuff like that. The sensation you get when you get on the power in one of these cars and you feel the power of the car and you feel that come back through the tyres, back into the steering column and back into your wheel is really exciting. So this is a perfect wheel. Imagine like the S's at Suzuka. Imagine the first corner at Suzuka when you get on that power and the car's a bit like this. It absolutely excels at that. So again, that's not pure sim racing. That's not looking at a delta and kind of trying to get the delta as fast as possible. That's about having fun. And that's where this wheel, in my opinion, really shines. If you just kind of want to have fun and you want to be immersed and you want to have your hands on an ergonomic wheel that feels like one of the best road car wheels you can get in the world, then this is the wheel for that. If you want to use it as a daily driver for sim racing, but you want to have a Lamborghini badge, in my opinion, you're better off getting a Lamborghini badge on the internet and slapping it on something like this, because this has compromises for that pure sim racing. Another example is a screen. For $400 here, we don't have a screen. Now, obviously, Fanatec don't really do screens, so we can ignore that. But the Conspit wheels and the other Moza wheels at this price range do have screens. Now, when I'm driving using the CS Pro or the KS Pro, I'm using the screen a lot because I'm looking at the ABS, looking at the rev bar, I've got my delta up, stuff like that. When I'm driving with this, I am more than often not in the cockpit view. And I'm in the cockpit view because it just this is a wheel to drive in cockpit view. And if anyone's watching this video and you've got this wheel and you're kind of watching videos about it, let me know in the comments if you agree. When your hands sink into this wheel, you kind of feel like you're sitting in a real Lamborghini. And therefore, I want the sim to look like I'm sat in a real performance car. Therefore, I'm sitting in a cockpit with a dash already there. And I'm looking at that dash in the car. Whereas when I'm sim racing, I'm kind of like, I don't really care about the cockpit at all. In iRacing, I'd get rid of the cockpit. In other sims, I sit on the bumper and I have my dash here. But using this Lamborghini Revuelto wheel, I'm more than often not sitting in the cockpit. So again, there's a different philosophy with this wheel that I think means it shines in certain areas and not in others. When I was driving it in open world games, it just feels like absolutely fantastic because again, ergonomically, you feel like you're driving a road car. When I was driving, I think I drove some GT3s, like it doesn't really make sense to me. But when I was driving, I had some amazing races in the GR86 Toyota and also the Alfa Romeo Giulia, where I just kind of was almost trance-like, like super immersed. It's a super immersive wheel. If you think of sim racing as a spectrum, one side you've got like sim racing, esports, stuff like that. And on the other side you've got like pure immersion, we're using like H pattern shifters and stuff like that. This wheel is all the way over here. It's all the way over here. So if you're going to use it for esports, not a good idea. If you want to use it for immersion, I think a great idea. And even though it's got a Lamborghini badge on it, I think, I was driving the BMW M4, it feels like a perfect match. Now, some other comments on the build quality, because the build quality, well, there's two separate things actually, build quality and materials. So build quality, because I haven't been using this for months and months, I can't say if it's really going to fall apart or not. Like, fingers crossed it won't. Moza stuff tends not to. If it does, I repair it on this channel and make a video about it. That'd be the same case here. But when it comes to quality of materials, this is plasticky. And that's why your thumbs resting here for a long stint might be a bit like, oh, I'm kind of resting on plastic. The real car won't be like that. So this is some kind of plasticky material. Obviously there's a lot of material here, so the plasticky stuff keeps the price down. The rim itself is not bad, but it's not the nicest rim in the world. Like it's nice, but it's not nice. It doesn't particularly stand out, the materials here. It does have natural stitching, which is really nice, and it looks good. You can see it just looks the part, but it's not like something you put your hands on, you're like, whoa, this feels like an actual Lamborghini car. Now, I don't mind the plastic too much because, you know, I think it does look like the real wheel. However, I would just note that I feel like fingerprints might show on this. It might be smudged. You might want to keep a cloth nearby to keep it clean. Moza have also been able, by the way, to put their new quick release on this. So you see the one with the lip, which is absolutely fantastic. And it also has support. That means that you can use this on any wheelbase if you have the little Moza connector thing. So all in all, for the price, and by the way, if this video has helped you, please do subscribe and let me know your thoughts in the comments. $399 is aggressive from Moza. 100% it's aggressive. They could have released this at $499 quite easily. Maybe up to $549, I would say, they could have released this wheel at. However, at $399, it's clearly aggressive. The problem is, this Fanatec wheel is $349 usually, and now it's on discount to like $320, I think. Stuff like the Moza CS Pro is also $349. So at $399, this is $50 more expensive. Now, in my opinion, if you want to do sim immersion stuff, it's actually worth paying the $50 for the Lamborghini shape and badge. I honestly think that. If you want to be immersed and have on your rig something that anyone's going to recognise, because if you put this on your rig, people aren't going to know what Moza is, and some of the other wheels look like aliens. But if you put this on your rig, your mates are going to know, you got a Lamborghini wheel, is that from a real Lamborghini? Stuff like that, those conversations are going to flow. So I think for $50, it's worth it. The main consideration is that, what are you going to be driving this on? So Forza Horizon 5 hope should be great. By the way, the first time I used this wheel, I took it out the box. I was so excited. I put it on my Moza base. I mapped the shifters and off I was driving. Absolutely fantastic. No hassle. Perfect. Take it out the box, put it on the wheelbase. As I was reviewing and I was trying different sims, all of the open world games, Car X Street, just kept minimizing. ASETEK Corsa Evo, I would click something, it would just crash or minimize or hang. Couldn't play it at 4K at the beginning. The Crew 2 just wouldn't boot, just would not boot up. Like all of these open world games, like the Crew, ASETEK Corsa Evo, and Test Drive Unlimited Crown, I couldn't even leave my apartment to get in the car because it would keep flashing between joypad and keyboard, and I just couldn't get it going. Whatever the issues are there, and some of them I was able to fix, but whatever the issues initially are going to put people off. So the software is holding us back here. I think the hardware from these brands is fantastic, but it's this, and this ergonomically makes sense. You take it out, you put it on, clank, you map your shifters, and you start driving. It's like it speaks every language. But some of these games, I'm telling you, are just getting too complicated. They just need to boot up and work, is my opinion. Right, I went on a tangent there, so let me know what you think of this wheel in the comments. Let me know what you think of the price. Any more questions as well. I think you're going to see me using this wheel quite a lot this year, is my hunch, because I just think it's such a good looking wheel. I think it's the sexiest wheel in sim racing, and as someone who was voted the sexiest sim racer in sim racing, obviously I feel a bit of affinity here. So let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.